sluts.
Three,
I'm hoping to do some sluts too.
2, 1. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting film journey here on Inside Movies Galore. I am one of your hosts, but today we are starting an animation month. What was the name of the theme again?
Animation April.
Animation April. So
Indeed.
why don't I hand this over to our good friend Forrest, as this is one of his choices that was chosen. And why don't you tell us what film we were subjected to first?
All right. So subject more like what did I expose you guys to? What did I expose you guys to? Make it tonight. So it's our first movie this month. My pick was 1996's Bevis and Butthead Do America. From Mike Judge, based on the popular MTV cartoon Beavis and Butthead, and featuring the voices of Mike Judge as the titular Beavis and Butthead, along with Tom Anderson, Mr. Van Driesen, and Principal McVicker, and an all-star supporting cast including Bruce Willis and Demi Moore as Muddy and Dallas Grimes, Cloris Leachman as Martha the Old Woman, Robert Stack as Agent Fleming, Greg Kinnear as Agent Bork. You've also got Toby Huss, David Letterman as a Motley Crue roadie, and you've got it also has music from John Frizzell, as well as a whole big bunch of big names in rock and metal, including Ozzy Osbourne, AC/DC, White Zombie, Rancid, Red Hot Chili Peppers. Oh God, I'm just trying. No Doubt, the Butthole Surfers, and also, and it was produced by from MTV Pictures. I believe this was actually MTV's second movie after Joe's Apartment, and Geffen Pictures, distributed by Paramount Pictures. It was distributed and it was released on December 20th, 1996.
Time for Christmas.
Perfect holiday viewing. Family holiday viewing.
For kids.
Perfect. Yeah, and also grandma and grandpa. So let's go around and do first impressions. Let's start to my left. Dave, what was your first impression? It's your first time watching Beavis and Butthead Do America.
Oh no! It's been some time since I've seen the movie itself, but it has definitely been a rewatch for me since I was a teenager. It came out in my generation, but I do think that all generations, at least of men, seem to enjoy this.
Hey, my sister thought Beavis and Butthead was hilarious.
But I get a kick out of their comedy, their total screwballs when it comes to learning anything, because they really don't. They pay attention to the dirty words, and and that just was like the generation of our time, paying attention to the stupidest shit.
And yet somehow Beavis knew water was in cactus.
It's kind of funny, though. They kind of paved the way for many musicians. So
yep. Well, also they were very also if you remember the music videos portions of the show, they could be very critical. They were very critical of what they looked at music very critically, or listened to music very critically.
Right.
Oh yeah, but I get a kick out of Robert Stack's part in here. I mean, the fact that when they're traveling around and paying attention to how the signs look to different sexual terms and shit like that. So it's comical, and it was a nice throwback to when you could just watch stupid shit for stupid reasons. So it's definitely a guilty pleasure of mine, and I'm glad that I have it in the collection. So thank you for letting me have this nostalgia trip.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, Brandon, over to you. Is first impressions? Is this your first time watching Beavis and Butthead Do America?
No. This one's an odd one for me when it comes to this. I watched the movie first with my father, believe it or not, who got a real kick out of the film. He actually really liked. There was a part in the film where they were at the church, and he's sitting there in the confessional, like, hit yourself, no, harder, And my father just laughed hysterically at that, and I have to admit, that's the only thing I remembered of the movie itself from the actual movie viewing. The first time I watched it, and this was back in late 90s.
Yeah.
And then because I am the oddball out. I did not like Beavis and Butthead. I thought they were stupid. No offense to anybody. I did. When I was in high school, I thought they were stupid. I've come to tolerate them more.
I think there's no dispute that they are stupid.
With Mike Judge's other work, like King of the Hill, for instance. I'm a huge fan of that.
Yeah, that show is brilliant.
And a lot of the movies as well, like Office Space, Idiocracy.
Yep.
But I could never get into Beavis and Butthead. But the thing that I did get out of it when I was first there was the soundtrack, which I listened to constantly, especially the Red Hot Chili Peppers version with a Love Roller Coaster.
A roller coaster, yep.
And that was our road trip theme. Every time we would go on a road trip to the big city, I'm a country boy. I was raised in the country.
Wait, do you mean to like DC or like Richmond?
Well, you see, for me, the big city was Roanoke, which is not.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not that big. But we would go, and that would be the thing. Would always start us off, and our friend Nate would always just he had the whole thing memorized, so he would just go. He'd go ape with the lyrics, and we would all just rock it out as we would leave every time. So every time I think about that song, I think road trip. And watch it this time, I got more enjoyment out of it, I think, than the last time. I remember it now. And I could see a lot of how King of the Hill evolved from this.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it's kind of like looking at that evolution as it went along. It was an okay film. I can see where a lot of people like it, and I can see where nostalgia would definitely shape it. But as somebody with no nostalgia for Beavis and Butthead other than those things, it was watchable for me.
All right. Over to you, Kroll. First impressions, your first time watching Beavis and Butthead Do America. Kroll. All right, I guess. So Jake. In the meantime, over to Jake. This is your first time watching Beavis and Butthead Do America.
Let's see.
You guys can hear me?
Okay, Kroll, you're on.
You guys can hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. We just want to get your first impressions on the movie. Is this your first time watching Beavis and Butthead Do America?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead, girl.
I wonder if he can hear us.
It sounds like he's talking.
Sounds like it.
You guys are cutting bad. I don't know what's going on.
I don't know. It got you that time.
Yep.
Yeah, I was trying to talk. Yeah, no, it's not the first time I saw it. I was a fan of the TV show, and then when the movie came out, I went and saw it, and yeah, I loved it. It's pretty much the show, but so much better, so much better. Kind of like South Park, bigger, better.
Mhm.
um, but yeah, that I love the movie. It's yeah, it's definitely it's just a lot of fun. Yeah, so I mean, it's obviously not everybody's taste. Obviously not Tammy's. I'm sure my mother probably didn't enjoy this stuff either. Not that I'm comparing Tammy to my mother, but don't tell her I said that.
Your secret's safe with
but
us.
yeah, it's just good. It's just good fun. I remember I gotta tell a story because it's just so hilarious. A friend of mine, a girl, she was kind of on a substance. I won't say exactly what, but we were all hanging out in this hotel room, and she was running around with a shirt on her over her head, not uncovering anything, but just enough that it was over there, and she was putting her arms up, just running around saying, "Dig my bunghole, I am going to dig my bunghole." And I was actually not on any substance, but I was laughing my ass off. My other two friends, they were, and they were laughing really hard too. It was just really, really hilarious. The way she was mimicking it, and she's running around, a little messed up, and it was just pretty damn funny. So definitely, it is definitely some girls get into this too. She definitely did. She was one of my best friends for a long time. We kind of lost contact, but yeah, we're like two peas in a pod, man. People used to ask us, "You guys married or just friends?" But it was funny. We definitely two peas apart, and we thought a lot alike, and we liked the same stuff, and it was some good times. So I just want to share that little story, little Beavis and Butthead story. But yeah, I love the movie. It's good fun. That's about it. But all I'll say is some real good fun.
All right, very good. Over to you, Jake. First impressions. This is your first time watching Beavis and Butthead Do America.
Not the first time, but it's the first time in a good long while. And I also have an interesting background with this one. I was not an MTV kid. As I have mentioned before, I didn't have cable growing up. And I also, as I think I've mentioned on the channel before, was very restricted in a lot of the shows I could watch. Basically, shows like The Simpsons and The Fresh Prince were considered too edgy, and I wasn't allowed to watch them.
Which I don't know. Which to me, I don't know. It's funny that Fresh. I mean, in the '90s, I know there was a lot of controversy surrounding The Simpsons, but Fresh Prince, I always found that show so tame and wholesome.
I couldn't tell you why. I don't know. It's just the way. I mean, maybe because of the rap
I
aspect.
agree. Like with Bird.
What's that?
What was that?
But his rap was wholesome. Like his rap wasn't bad.
Again, I can't tell you what my parents were thinking. I can only tell you what I was told, and it's even weirder with some of the stuff my dad would show me. But it
Maybe they didn't like the way he dressed on the show because he wore exactly the show.
I don't think they thought about it. I think they, But at any rate, this was one that a lot of my friends liked, and I did have one very good friend in particular who I think this was something he played a lot. So, and my brothers had friends who did. So, I had seen bits and pieces, and mostly I was like, they're idiots. What the hell? Why people, and I wasn't sure what the appeal was. I did somewhere along the line get shown that whole Cornholio bit. I think directly from the series. It may have been the first time that he did it. I don't know, but I always thought that was amusing, and that did stick in my brain. I could not tell you for the and as far as the reboot, I've seen a couple scenes. I haven't really gotten into it, but one of my brothers sat me down and showed me a couple scenes. Have not seen the new movie. This one, and it's always kind of, for me, I agree with Brandon. I feel like Mike Judge definitely grew as a creator and made so much great stuff later on. Office Space is a classic. I love Idiocracy. I enjoyed Extract. Not everyone enjoyed that one.
Silicon Valley.
I have not seen that. I need to, I know. And then, of course, King of the Hill is great. And it's kind of, I know I'm missing something, but it is notable. You mentioned a lot of the cast. It is notable. Richard Linklater has an uncredited appearance too, and the guy, the original Slacker, the guy that is very fun. But in a sense, Mike Judge is kind of like the trailer trash version of the Coens, because not to say he's trailer trash, but his characters. They're the same breed of stupid in general. Both directors are really, really into kind of dumb characters. Who do dumb things. I don't think the Coens have ever had anyone nearly as stupid as Beavis and Butthead on there. But some of the other Mike Judge ones, like the Idiocracy, are a little more close.
Plus, I was gonna say, plus Judge and Linklater, both of them are some of the big names in the Austin film community.
Yeah. And that may have been why they Linklater was that, and the fact that he directed Slacker. I'm sure Judge probably thought that was a fun little joke there. But I did see this in the 90s. I could not tell you if it was right after it came out or later. I have no memory. I don't remember if I watched it with friends from school. I don't remember the circumstances. I don't know if my brothers talked my parents into letting us watch it. I really can't remember. I just know I saw it sometime around then. And this is my first time seeing it since then. I remember being mildly amused and thinking, holy crap, they actually strung together a decent movie. How did they do that? This time around, I had a much better appreciation for the music that was used. I had a better appreciation for Mike Judge. And again, I didn't realize that the character from Beavis and Butthead basically got remixed into the main character from King of the Hill.
Tom Anderson.
I had no idea. And so when I saw this dude who sounded exactly like Hank Hill and who was talking about butane, I'm like, holy crap.
Actually, I say propane, a good propane tank.
Yeah, no, propane is his drug of choice.
And he'll tell you what.
Yeah. And I actually worked with a dude who we called Boomhauer because he talked exactly like Boomhauer.
Oh my God.
It was crazy. But it's, I don't know. I this time around, I appreciated why. Apparently, Siskel and Ebert gave the movie thumbs up. They thought it was great. I can see why people actually really like this movie. It actually has a lot to offer. I will not back down. I will not apologize for saying that Bevis in particular is one of the dumbest characters on any show ever. And, and Butthead's not a lot better, but he's you put them together, and he's clearly the smarter one. But you know,
Barely.
but I like the fact that it's a simple quest. They're just trying to find a TV, and it just blows way out of proportion. And I also, one thing I did grow up with was Unsolved Mysteries, so I cannot not think of that when I hear Robert Stack's voice.
Yep.
And that just made the movie. Every scene he was in, I was like, "Oh, that is so awesome!" I loved it, and his obsession with cavity searches.
You've got Agent Fleming and the deep cavity search lady as your avatar tonight.
Who I don't think she had any, and she is putting on a glove, but I couldn't fit the whole thing in the picture, unfortunately. But yes, So overall, it was well worth a revisit. I will have to add it to the collection eventually. I mean, I'd like to see someone like Shout or Arrow do a Mike Judge collection. That would be really cool, and I would go for that in a heartbeat. But yeah, and we have to. I've said before we need to hit Idiocracy, but we need to hit a few of those as we go along. But anyway, that about does it for me. I feel like it held up to what I expected and maybe somewhat exceeded my memory.
Oh, very good, and good. Thank you, Jake. And for me, no, this is not my first time watching it. So I was a little young to watch Beavis and Butthead when it came out because I was in kindergarten when it started in '93, and my mom did not allow. I was not allowed to watch it, and the only time I ever got to watch it was if I was at my grandmother's house because my uncles lived at home with my grandmother. My uncles lived at home with my younger uncles lived at home with my grandmother, and they watched it. So I'd watch it with them, and I thought it was, it was really stupid and dumb, but I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was just the laugh. They had a very infectious laugh. Plus, they had all the music video. Plus, they had like all the music videos. I would say the video because I remember like one time my cousin had borrowed a Sega Genesis from one of his friends, and one of the games was Beavis and Butthead. Was the Beavis and Butthead video game And I credit that with introducing me to Guar, who are now like one of my favorite bands. They're from your neck of the woods, Brandon and Jake.
Indeed. My introduction was Empire Records, another movie we need to cover.
Yep. But then when I was a little old, so I did not see the movie when it came out either, because again, no way in hell my mom would let me watch it. Because she thought that she hated Beavis and Butthead. She thought it was stupid. She just thought it was dumb. I don't know. Growing up, my mom was very picky about some of the shows I didn't really like a lot of the show. My mom was very disapproving of some of the shows that some of my taste in television, like any television that she didn't find intellectually stimulating. But then when I was about 14 years old, one of those younger uncles of mine gave me 2 Beavis and Butthead videotapes for Christmas that had just like multiple episodes. And I remember watching them and just laughing my ass off. It was just so hilarious. These characters are so dumb, but it's dumb to the point of like hilarity, and just how they also at the same time these characters are so stupid, but at the same time they're poking fun. Mike Judge just took a piss out of American culture, was just taking the piss out of American culture in general throughout that whole show. And then the following Christmas, after I got those tapes, my grandmother, for some reason, she gave my dad this movie along with South Park Bigger and Longer and Uncut on DVD for Christmas, even though my dad's wasn't into Beavis and Butthead or South Park. Although I was already into I was already because people, I would say people my age were more into South Park than Beavis and Butthead. Well, actually, maybe a bit of both, but but like people my age were in high school when South Park was in its were like in middle school and high school when South Park really took off. But I remember watching Beavis and Butthead Do America, and I just thought I just thought it was hilarious, like nonstop. And somehow they made this like as ridiculous as it gets. I mean, yeah, you wonder how they take. I mean, the cartoons themselves are very short, like 10, 15 minutes. But they make this one actually makes a feature. Actually, unlike a lot of other cartoons that have made into films, like this one actually makes it worth, or television shows that have been turned into films. This one really, like Mike Judge really knows how to take advantage of the media, takes advantage of the medium, with the story, with the humor, and just a great. I really love the music. Well, I think I'll get to the music, but because I mean, by the time I had seen this movie, I was already getting into heavy metal, so really getting into heavy metal and hard rock. So the music definitely resonated with me, right away. It's a movie that I watch at least once a year, along with the TV show itself. I think I've already I think just during the pandemic alone, I already binged it at least 2 or 3 times already. It's just for me like Beavis and Butthead is just like one of the as far as both the movie and the show, it's just like for me it's become comfort food. For better or worse, I'm sure.
Oh, I was going to say, have you seen the newer series, and how do you think that one?
I have seen the newer. I have seen the newer series, both the one that came out that was on MTV back in 2011, and the one that's now on Comedy Central. And to me, I feel like they both feel like the show had never ended when I watched them. I mean, the pop culture references are updated for the 21st century. But overall, Beavis and Butthead are still the same. I don't know. I kind of like they're very. It's like the characters themselves are like as stupid as they are. They're very timeless.
Right. And actually, on that note, one thing I don't know how I forgot, but like one thing that has always been a huge part of my memory of this one is the illustrated edition. I discovered this in high school. The illustrated edition of Huck Finn, The Adventures of Huck Finn, Mark Twain, has an image of the Duke and the Dolphin, those two shysters that Huck encounters in one of the small villages he goes through, who there's a picture that's labeled John. And it's the Duke and the Dolphin, and I swear it's Beavis and Butthead. It's perfect facsimile. I really do wonder if Mike Judge had seen that picture and it inspired something in him. I really wonder this. But you mentioned the timelessness. I'm like, it can't be accidental that they existed in the time of Mark Twain.
Oh, God.
And the Duke and the Dolphin are more intelligent than Beavis and Butthead, but they're not by a grand order of the things.
Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, I will honestly go ahead on that note and say that Mike Judge himself is probably between Beavis and Butthead, King of the Hill, and then all his film work like Office Space and Idiocracy. I think he might be one of the great American satirists of the last 30 years.
He kind of, in a way, is sort of carrying the Twain's torch, you could say.
And also, I should mention that I have an 11-year-old nephew. I've introduced him to both the movie and the show, much to my mom's chagrin. And he loves it too. Like I'm glad I can carry that tradition. I can carry that tradition down to him. And I will. Yep. And I will also say that Beavis and Butthead is also, for me, along with The Simpsons, Rocko's Modern Life, and Batman the Animated Series, like those four cartoons are probably my Mount Rushmore of favorite cartoons. Anyway, so we start out. So the movie starts, and Butthead is dreaming that him and Bevis are kaiju, wrecking a city and grabbing a chick out of an office building and fighting over her. But turns out it's a dream. It turns out it's a dream. Bevis wakes up Butthead, and they find that their television set is missing. We see that the two burglars had broken in and taken it, but they don't. But they can't. But Butthead is very slow to put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah, they're still in the process of taking it. If these two had looked out the window,
oh, yep, they were just putting it in the van. So they realize the TV is missing, and we go to an opening credit sequence inspired with music by Isaac Hayes.
Yes, I love
inspired by blaxploitation and TV shows like Starsky and Hutch.
Yeah. Which I guess the image on the movie poster was kind of that image that we had going on there, where they had the sideburns and the all that.
The bell bottom.
Right. Yeah, I love the homage to the blaxploitation. I'm like, where the hell did this come from?
Yep, and so after the opening credits, Beavis and Butthead are looking around town for their TV, and they end up at their school and try to take the school TV out of the AV room, and they're stopped by their teacher, Mr. Van Driesen, who is a hip. Yeah, so if you've watched the show, he is this hippie, this do-gooder hippie, who tells Beavis and Butthead to put the television back, and that he tells them that maybe that their TV missing might be a good lesson for them, and that they don't need television to entertain them. But of course, Beavis and Butthead misinterpret what he says, and all they can focus on is they think he's him saying anus. Right. But so they or nothing, and still make off with the school television set, but ends up falling over the stairs outside the school and breaking. So their stressed out principal, Mr. McVicker, expels them for it.
Yeah, big problem for them.
Yeah, like doesn't Butthead just go cool?
Yeah, they don't care. They don't care. They don't care. While Mr. McVicker is in the show itself, McVicker, Beavis and Butthead are McVicker is a very high strung character, and Beavis and Butthead are always doing something to drive him crazy.
So, how many times, for those of you who actually watched the show, I've watched one episode of the show where they get a gallon of gas. I don't know why that one sticks out in my head, but that one has, and I read one of the comics where having to do with Butthead's braces. But my guess is they get expelled often.
They get sent to detention a lot. There was one episode where they kept getting pushed back grade by grade until they were in kindergarten. And the elementary school principal got into a fight with McVicker to let them back into high school because they were causing problems with the kindergartners.
Gee, I wonder why.
And then there was the finale of the original series where Beavis and Butthead are dead, where it ends with McVicker getting a heart attack. Anyway, they continue to look for the TV, and they end up at a motel. They end up at this seedy motel, where first they find McVicker. Before they go to the motel, they wind up at their neighbor Tom Anderson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's just getting his camper ready for a road trip. They go to his trailer where his wife lets them in, under the assumption that they were there to fix the TV, but they're just there to watch TV.
They were there to fix the refrigerator.
Yeah, well, they raid the fridge and watch TV. And Tom Anderson's getting the propane tank for the trailer ready, and he's like, he hears Beavis and Butthead doing air guitar to whatever show they were watching.
Here, just a random thought. Like, if they were a half a degree smarter, other than TV, the only thing they seem to want is to score.
Yes.
But you think about the setup to pretty much any porno. What are you here? I'm here to fix the TV, Like, they wandered around like this and get invited in to fix stuff. Sooner or later, they might end up with this hot girl that,
Well, do you think that they'd actually think that far?
No, that's what I'm saying. If they were a little bit smarter, like they were more on par with some of the King of the Hill characters, But I don't know. Just a thought.
Yep, but anyway, so they raid the fridge. I guess you were kind of jumping. You're almost on the money there, Jake. But before we jump ahead, they're watching TV. Beavis grabs a soda from the fridge because it turns out McVicker, it wasn't the TV that was broken. It was Anderson's fridge that was broken. And so Beavis opens up the fridge and gets a soda, but it turns out the soda's warm, and he spits it out and breaks the TV. So they walk out. They walk out of the trailer, and Anderson can't quite tell who just walked out of his trailer. But he assumes it's those two hoodlums that have been whacking in his tool shed.
Right. And then
and also Anderson's another character that on the show that Beavis and Butthead have a long history of causing trouble for.
Mm-hmm.
Like one episode, there was like one episode where he hired them to paint his house, and all they did was just mess it up.
He's the Hank Hill kind of character.
He was kind of the proto Hank Hill, because King of the Hill came out just a few months after this movie.
I remember an episode, I think it was the comic, where the guy was all happy he had a bag of yams, and Beavis and Butthead stole his bag of yams from him.
Yeah, that sounds like a Tom Anderson. And then there's also one episode of the show where they take Anderson's lawn, because Anderson he has like one of those what do they call those lawnmowers that you could drive?
The riding mower?
Yeah. They take Anderson's riding mower and just mess up his yard, and then go around and mess up the town.
See, the only episode of Beavis and Butthead I remember watching, they had $1, so they went to the gas station to get a gallon of gas, because gas was $1 a gallon at the time.
Yeah.
And they couldn't they couldn't get the gallon of gas because they had nothing to put it in. So they spent on a lotto ticket. They won the lottery, used the money, all but $1 to buy a riding lawnmower, and used the $1 to get the gallon of gas to put it in the lawnmower.
Okay.
Yeah, but I do remember the one where they also tried to dig for oil, where they dig for oil in Anderson's yard, but they end up hitting a sewer line.
Well, I do recall, as I recall, I believe as they were walking out of the camper, he asked who they were, and his wife, I think, said, "Oh, I let them in to fix the television or something."
He's like, "What? The TV ain't broken."
And Butthead's like, "Yeah, it is, or it is now," or something. Yeah, but yeah, You mean he consciously hired them to do something for him? I feel like that would be on him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Beavis and Butthead end up making their way to a seedy motel where first they find McVicker getting spanked by a sex worker with his pants down. And he chews them out the door and tells them they're expelled. Reminds them that they're expelled. So they go a few doors over and are yanked into a hotel room by Muddy Grimes, who was a small time weapons dealer. And he mistakes them for someone else, for two other guys, and he mistakes them for the two burglars that stole her TV. And he pays them to go to Vegas to do his wife Dallas. So he wants them to kill his wife. So Muddy wants them to kill his wife, while Beavis and Butthead are under the impression that they're being sent to Vegas getting paid to go to Vegas to have sex with his wife.
Dude, we're gonna score.
And at first they're reluctant to go. Beavis is reluctant to go, but Butthead tells them that, hey, we can just use the money for the job to go buy another television set. So Muddy drops them off at the airport, and they board a plane to Vegas, where they meet this old lady played by Cloris Leachman, and who tells them that there's about all the slots in Vegas. But of course, they misinterpret what she says, and Beavis misinterprets what she says, and assumes that he's going to be doing a lot of sluts in Vegas.
Well, you know,
he's not compliments him on being such a polite young man.
And as the plane's taking off, Beavis freaks out that they're going to die, while Butthead undoes his seatbelt to go and ends up rolling all the way into the back of the plane and tries to hit on the flight attendant who buckled his belt.
Well, technically, Beavis just gets into. She gives him no-dos, which is not really bright.
And he takes like all sorts of other pills from her.
Yes.
And he turns into his alter ego Cornholio, and starts doing his thing, pulls his shirt over. He goes around the plane doing his thing. And he goes into the cockpit of the plane and freaks out the pilots. And Butthead goes tumbling in there, and the pilots yell at them to get out of the cockpit.
Hey,
but Butthead that before he can say the obvious, say cock, they get him out, and
the pilot, by the way, is John Doman, who is a pretty cool character actor as well. He's been in some stuff.
The Wire, Oz, Gotham, ER.
Right, he was Carmine Falcone in Gotham, and I still think that was one of the better roles on that series.
Yep, and so they land in Vegas, where there's a chauffeur holding a sign with their name, and they think the chauffeur is blind, so they start mooning him. But then eventually they figure out that he's there for them, or that eventually
he figures it out.
The chauffeur figures out that they're Beavis and Butthead. Yeah. They can't read this. They can't read the sign. And takes them into downtown Vegas, onto the strip, where they're playing with the windows. And we have our first montage of the movie where the Red Hot Chili Peppers performing Love Roller Coaster.
Oh yeah, I love that scene. If there was any scene in the film that I could say that I truly was in awe of, it would be that one. I like that one. It was just so much going on in it.
Yeah,
all of the sluts and slots and everything else. It was just, to me, it was just a really well put together scene, and the song just adds to it. Every time this movie, that song.
Yeah, I remember although I remember with that scene, that montage, my dad was like, how come, because they're in the lounge with the band, and my dad's like, they couldn't have done an animated version of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, but however that scene had already been animated before they got the Red Hot Chili Peppers to do the music. But they're escorted by security out. At first they're escorted out by security, but then turns out, they get that cleared up and go to their hotel, and are sent to their hotel room, where they find the door. They find the door to the next hotel, to the next room, and are pulled in, and are yanked in by Dallas, who holds them at gunpoint. She finds, and they're ready to do. They drop their pants, ready to have sex with her, but she offer, and they refuse her offer of $20,000 to go back and do Muddy, and they argue over who's going to do Dallas,
which is kind of funny because there is a porno called Debbie Does Dallas.
Yep.
So
I'm sure that was at least considered in the naming process.
Probably, I'm sure. Yep, and so while during the fight, Dallas takes Bevis's Bevis's pants, and puts the X5 unit. It's a stolen biological weapon. She sews them into his shorts so he can smuggle them to DC. And she puts them on a bus. She puts them on a bus to DC. The same, and on this bus it happens to be the old lady they met on the plane. So while they're on the bus makes a stop at the Hoover Dam, where while the rest of the group is giving a tour of the dam, Beavis and Butthead go to the control room, and they see all the monitors and think, hey, there's a bunch of TVs. But by accident they end up sabotaging the dam and cause a power outage in Vegas. So the FBI, hold on. And at this point, we're introduced to the FBI agent Fleming and his associate Bork, who assume that Beavis and Butthead are the most dangerous men in America.
Well, considering what they were carrying at the time, they definitely were.
Yep.
Well, they seem to be assuming that there's some sort of criminal masterminds, which is definitely not quite there.
Yeah.
What?
So after this, Beavis and Butthead go on a road trip across the U.S. and wind up at Yellowstone Park, where the park ranger is telling them about Old Faithful, telling the crowd about the group about Old Faithful, but Beavis and Butthead are more interested in the urinals in the men's room than they are by Old Faithful.
Right. Eric Bogosian, incidentally, the ranger.
Yep. Yeah. And then but by accident the tour bus leaves without them, and so Beavis and Butthead are board a bus full of nuns. But then the ranger realizes that it was that who Beavis and Butthead are, and calls the FBI, who arrive and question the ranger, which leads to the ranger getting a deep cavity search.
He loved those cavity searches.
Yep. Actually, what do we think of Agent? What do we think of Agent Fleming and his deep cavity searches?
Well, I will say this: he is certainly a serious guy.
Yes, he is.
I also will say our elderly vacationing couple is very resilient because somehow they
Yeah.
still managed to get back on the road after the dam basically burst and somehow got the car and everything back together again. They are a resilient group.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Are you talking about the tour group, or are you talking about the Andersons?
The
Or both?
Andersons.
Yes, I was thinking like it was kind of amazing. I wondered if they were keeping spares. Like I forgot about. I'm not sure about the dam scene, but there's a pile up later on that they were caught in, and then they roll up in DC with what looks like a brand new car. And it's
Yeah,
like,
but they do get although because Beavis and Butthead accidentally break the dam,
yeah,
they do get flooded. The Andersons do get flooded.
yeah. So it's like Zed, where do they have spare vehicles stashed around the country?
Maybe they're just that good at like being ingenuity wise. They can repair anything.
I bet. I mean, I know Hank Hill would believe he could. I'm guessing Tom Anderson's similar in that regard.
Well, this guy kind of reminds me of a little bit of him and Cotton rolled into one. Because he's like, I'm a Korean vet.
He's a veteran of 2 foreign wars.
Yeah, it kind of like the two Hills rolled into one with just a dash of Bill Dauterive, I think.
So that character came before King of the Hill, right? I think he was definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, he does. Yeah.
Tom Anderson was kind of the prototype for Hank. Tom Anderson was the prototype for Hank Hill. And King of the Hill premiered about just a few months after this movie came out. Anyway, Dustin, so glad you could join us. Before we move on to the movie, let's get your first impression. Is this your first time watching Beavis and Butthead Do America?
Well, I've seen this before. It's a little bit of a long story, but to summarize it, so I grew up in kind of this era where Beavis and Butthead were like out and like popular. But I was a little bit too young for shows like Beavis and Butthead or Ren and Stimpy.
Same.
They weirded me out. Well, Ren and Stimpy really messed me up. I really did not like the 3 or 4 episodes of those I saw.
Even though John Crickfalusi's a creep.
Well, I mean, it was mostly pretty. The one I remember the most was one of them marries like a piece of meat, and then the other one like eats it. Or
I remember that one, the chicken.
It was a chicken?
Yes.
It was like a live chicken and the one guy killed it to eat it, I think.
No, the chicken was already dead. It was already dead.
Okay. Something about that in my mind, like I think I've noticed I do this sometimes. Like I did a lot when I was like younger. I would fill in the blanks of things to make them more interesting, and I think that's probably what actually freaked me out more. But anyway, so never mind all that. But so I had never gotten the point of that rambling story is I never got to see Beavis and Butthead on TV. I mean, I knew about them. I didn't really know what MTV was, and they seemed to be gone before I was really like aware enough. Like I caught South Park, I think, into its like 2nd or 3rd year.
Mm-hmm.
But this kind of show just had completely missed me. But I'd hear people talk about it sometimes. Like I knew what people would do, like a Cornholio or Beat impression, and I would know what it was. Like they were popular enough that you would learn that from like listening to people talk about them. And so I read the review for this movie in Ebert's Big Movie Book a few years before I actually saw it. I think I saw this in undergrad, actually, when I was like in my 20s in 2008 or 9 or something like that. And I used to listen to White Zombie a lot. And there was one song that was just called Trippin' in the Desert, from Beavis and Butthead. And I was like, oh, I guess that's, I didn't realize that was what the scene was. It's like, oh, I know it's in the movie. But I would listen to that song all the time without having seen the movie. And so the first time I saw it, when that sequence started playing, I was like, hey, it's the thing. So I really enjoyed it. Along with, I think, with the framing of Roger Ebert's review, which I think he gave this a fairly, I remember him giving this a fairly good review.
I would say him and Siskel gave it 2 thumbs up.
Yeah, in terms of like what it says about like kind of the, I hesitate to say the Beavis and Butthead generation, but what he, I don't know, he made some good points. I just wish I'd had time to reread that review. I kind of felt
the characters were originally created just to poke fun at Gen X. Since
I am definitely the target generation of that show.
yeah.
So I want to eventually see some of the episodes because is the rest of the series like as good as this movie?
Yes. It's if you have a chance to watch the show, do it. It's hilarious.
All right, I'll definitely track that down. But to summarize my long rambling stories, the first time I saw it, I was in my 20s. I thought it was great. I think people in their 20s or like late teens were probably the target for this when it first came out. This is what, 96?
96.
Yeah.
I didn't see it until 2002.
Yeah, it was at least 2007 for me. As we didn't have the internet really when I was growing up, like in my teens. Like I didn't get to actually use the internet really. I mean, we had dial-up, but you know, it wasn't until I moved away to college and suddenly had all this access to stuff. It's like, oh yeah, I should find that Beavis and Butthead movie. And it wasn't just like downloading movies too. There were actually multiple video rental stores in that little town. And I think it was the non-chain one. There was Family Video and there was a Never Guy. Like, it was amazing that 2 video stores existed for so long in this town of like 8,000 people. But the other guy had a lot more stuff. And I think I got this from him. I'm not sure if I downloaded it or I rented it. There were quite a few movies I actually rented. I think this is one of them. So I don't know if this has a Blu-ray yet. Like, I think it might have. I think I heard something about a Blu-ray.
Yeah, I think it does. Because I swear I've seen a Blu-ray of the movie.
Yeah. Do you know if there's extras on that?
I mean, for me, I got the Beavis and Butthead collection that they had, which had the 4 volumes of the series, and it had the movie in it. Of course, I don't think there's any complete series collection out there right now, but it gives enough where I think it's all I would care to see of Beavis and Butthead anyway. Because that was like $20 when I got it, I think.
Wow.
Which is not bad for what you get on it, because it's a lot of that.
How many episodes were there per season? Like, I'm guessing like 20 or something, or.
I mean, each episode was about maybe 10 minutes. So.
Oh, it's probably twice that.
Yeah.
So I mean, like I said, I've never seen the show, so I don't know what format it used. Like, I assumed it was a half hour.
Well, I know that it originally came in like 3-volume sets, and the episodes were definitely out of order on those sets, and there were also some panned episodes that weren't even on the sets. So,
yeah. Plus, also the sets don't have the music videos because.
And I know that Time Life for a while was selling like best of bits, that had some of the band stuff on it. So if you find any stuff that has Time Life on it, some of that had some extras.
The collection had a couple of music videos that they got, but not a lot of them.
Was there a video in like every episode originally, or
like usually between episodes they would do commentary over music videos?
Yep, and on the collections you get like 2 discs of episodes, and then the 3rd disc is like a music video thing of like the of the episodes that had them. So, my favorite episode was when they forgot how to pee,
Oh yes, I love that one.
and that one's banned. So,
Was it bad? Because it's. I mean, it's on. It's on the DVD set. It's on Paramount Plus. It's been in reruns. I've seen it in reruns before.
yeah, I never found it on any of my volume sets. So,
Like I say, I've got mine, which I'm happy with what I've got because I wasn't a huge fan of the series, so but it's good to have like a group. It's sort of like the SCTV sets I've got the volumes of. Though I would love having the whole series, just because it feels missing. I can deal. Just enough Beavis and Butthead to remind me why I felt the way I did about the show, and until the next time I bring it up.
yep.
I want to find out more about the history of this now. I mean, I knew a little, but I didn't know a lot. Like, I knew they'd listen to videos, and I knew that was one of the main reasons that it was difficult to release, because apparently
all the music was the reason why it's.
Yeah.
Sort of like how any like Saturday Night Live has a hard time getting any of these, or you can't do that on television. You can't get an official release of that because they used to actually have musical guests every episode for a while.
Speaking of the history of this, though, I think it's worth throwing out, and I'll do it now so I don't forget. But I think Forrest, you were the one that commented like this seemed like an uptick in quality for, like sort of Judge bringing his A game, I guess, for the movie, which I feel like I've seen happen before. They definitely did that with the Simpsons movie too. But like in this case, I feel like supposedly Judge was totally burned out, but he was locked into an 8-season deal. And by doing the movie and doing it well, he was able to get out with season 7. Like he was able to free himself a little bit sooner by doing a good movie that made the studio money.
I'm free.
Yes, exactly. Free.
Anyway, so is anything else, Dustin, as far as first impressions, or?
I think that's it. Although it's difficult to remember, but I think there's a small chance I did see the desert sequence before I saw the movie. I think I might have gotten curious one day and like looked it up, but I still had that reaction when I was surprised. I don't know. I was kind of dumb back then. Like, it was not hard to do.
It's a crazy sequence.
It's so good. It's my favorite scene.
Actually, artistically, other than the love roller coaster scene at the beginning, where they're in Vegas, that one artistically is the most visually impressive for me. I think both of those are quite amazing scenes.
Yeah, and I almost wonder if Rob Zombie just completely like stole the aesthetic when he was like, "I'm going to be a solo band. Hey, look what they did with my song. This is me now. This is who I am."
Another parallel with that one, and I heard the song again yesterday. So this is freaking good timing. It might be one of the reasons why I made the connection. But there's a pretty cool song that came out, I'm going to say off the top of my head 4 or 5 years ago. I might be totally wrong about that. The song by KG Elephant called Come a Little Closer. I don't know how many of you know that song offhand. But if you or have seen the video, but if you've seen the video, it's in a desert setting and it's really friggin' weird and trippy. And it's nowhere near as crazy as this one. But I'm wondering if they were influenced by this when the time came to make that video. I mean, I feel like there are parallels there, and I'm just like, the timing of being reintroduced to that song was kind of crazy. But anyway, Uh, and then, of course, we are up to the desert sequence, right? Pretty much?
Actually, they just boarded the bus with the nuns.
Oh, right.
And actually, well, first they went up. They're on a bus with nuns who were turned off by their behavior.
I wonder why.
That scene in the church, as I said, that was the scene I always will remember, other than Love Roller Coaster, because of how much my father laughed at that scene. He was the one who got me to watch the film the first time because I didn't want to see it. And where they're in the confessional, and I can't remember what Butthead was doing, but then but Bevis sitting there going, "It's like I need to do some penance." Like, okay, hit yourself. No, harder. You just hear that boom, that whap like that.
Oh my god, that was so funny.
Yeah.
Hit yourself. Do it.
And they mistake the confession booth for a porta potty.
Makes sense with them.
Yep. So the nuns take off. The nuns take off without them, leaving them to wander around the.
Not surprising. Not surprising.
Yep. Especially they're on a bus. They're on a bus full of women, and women but not just women of God, and trying to perv on them. But the nuns take off, and Beavis and Butthead are left to their own devices and wander through the desert, where they meet two former Motley Crue roadies turned drifters.
Right.
Who look exactly like them except older.
Yep.
Right.
And one of them is voiced by David Letterman. So they sit around a campfire talking about how they stopped in Highland about 15 years earlier and scored with these two women, unaware that they're talking about their moms.
Right. Well, it goes both ways. I think between the four of them, none of them had a shred of putting
awareness.
The pieces together. Yeah. Even though the two older ones do look quite suspiciously like the two younger ones.
Yeah.
Which actually, when the one starts saying he scored, and the other one's like, no, I scored with both of them. You're sitting there going, no, dude, you remembered it wrong. We can tell.
And of course, Butthead's dad lights that fart on fire.
Right.
And then doesn't Beavis have sort of a trip of some sort?
Yeah, that's
a little later.
The cactus, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he was a peyote. Yeah, peyote cactus.
Which again, you never know what weird, random bit of information one person might pick up. Like Beavis barely has two functional brain cells to rub together, but he can both recognize a cactus and remembers that they contain water.
Well, you never know
that kind of cactus.
What's that?
And in a way, I could say that if there were certain things like basic knee-jerk things that somehow were rammed into us as kids, that is one of the things that we had rammed into us as kids through cartoons, through all sorts of things.
This is true. They probably saw enough cartoons to know what a cactus is, but I think it was more of the water bit that surprised me. Of course, he clearly didn't know that some cacti have other effects.
It's kind of a funny thing with that. So the last couple of years I've been playing this game called Ark Survival Evolved a lot. It's a survival game, obviously, where you have to find food and water to not passively die. And in the desert biomes, there are these big cactuses that you can cut down. And I had learned a long time ago that the stuff you collect from them, when you eat it, you don't gain water. But I try to do that every single time because it's been so drilled into me that cactus is water. And it's just
Well,
really kind of sad that they beat it into your head so hard. Like even in situations where it doesn't work, you're still like,
well, if you were in a life or death survival situation where you get a few droplets from a plant or you get nothing, you might still be better off with the cactus. But yeah, you're not going to get a whole reservoir, that's for sure. And of course,
I can give you 1 point of water per thing consumed, which would be like the bare minimum. Like, come on, guys.
yes,
Serious water part, fix this.
you'd probably get more trying to collect the dew than you would necessarily from most of them. But anyway.
But although I forget, oh god, I'm already forgetting. But back in Highland, Money goes back to his motel and he meets the two burglars who were supposed to be his hitmen, and then realizes that he had sent the wrong guys to Vegas, and plans to kill Beavis and Butthead. And the two burglars leave the television in front of the motel. And while this is going on, the FBI go to Highland to track down Beavis and Butthead. All while Mr. Van Driesen is singing "Lesbian Seagull" on guitar.
Yes.
Didn't they catch Mick Vickers like getting spanked by a hooker?
No, they don't. That was Beavis and Butthead earlier in the movie. But they go to Highland. They go to the motel. They check the motel. They check Beavis and Butthead's house, and then they go to their school, and where they break down the door of Mr. Van Driesen's classroom, take his guitar and smash it, and take Mr. Van Driesen for a deep cavity search, and inform McVicker that he's been harboring terrorists in his school, which makes McVicker more high-strung than even more high-strung than he already is. Oh.
Yeah, that dude from Unsolved Mysteries is so unyielding in this.
Yes, I don't know, because I did watch Unsolved Mysteries as a kid. And a lot of people our age were probably got creeped. A lot of people are, I see memes about how people our age were creeped out by Unsolved Mysteries, like the combination of the music combined with Robert Stack's voice.
See,
Yeah, lack of cavity searches.
And it's and for me,
I love how he sicks that one lady after Butthead and gives him a full cavity search. And after she leaves out the van, he's like, "Dude, did I just score?"
Before we jump ahead, but for me, it's funny. This movie, after watching this movie, I couldn't watch Unsolved Mysteries without thinking of him wanting about him demanding a deep cavity search.
So at the scene where at the end where he says, if you have any information or what have you, you should call this number and we'll send someone to cavity search. See, I would never have made that connection, I guess, because I was watching Unsolved Mysteries years before. That was what I knew Robert Stack. And for me, that's what makes his role in this so hilarious.
Yeah,
I know him as the dude from Unsolved Mysteries.
Everybody knew him from Unsolved Mysteries.
Yeah. I didn't learn his actual name until maybe 8 or 9 years ago. He was always just that guy,
From Unsolved Mysteries. Yep. Anyway, they meet their father. Meet their fathers in the desert. They see some vultures humping each other, and as they're dehydrated and passing out, Bevis takes a bite of that peyote cactus and he has that hallucination with Rob Zombie's music and animation, or White Zombie, I should say. But Mighty finds them and dumps water on them. And he's about to kill them and asks if they have any last word if they have any last words. Which Butthead's was butt and Bevis was boobs, which he says twice. But then they tell him that they're gonna meet her in DC. So he decides to spare them and locks them in his trunk and drives to DC.
Right.
And so while in the middle of the road, Butthead jacks open uses a car jack to open up the trunk, and both of them go flying out of the trunk and cause a massive car pileup on the highway.
Well, he kind of pushes Bevis out to see what would happen. Basically, yeah. He's like, just hit the ground running.
Well, I mean, they do have cartoon physics working on their side to keep them alive. So, yeah. Oh my gosh,
they start this massive pile.
Yep.
Which is incredible.
You're talking about a guy who's drinking whiskey straight out the bottle as he's driving too. So
from Texas to Virginia,
right?
Yeah, that's a long drive.
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't get into an accident or get a DUI.
Well, he was half deep in a bottle when he hired them in the first place. Makes you wonder how many he got through during the course of the movie.
Well, for the field I work in, I hear I drive better when I'm drunk so many times.
Yeah.
From working with DUIs from people, maybe it's true in his case.
I've heard the same claim about being stoned as well. Some people think it heightens their awareness if they know they don't want to get caught.
I'm gonna say something weird here. I can kind of see how people feel that way, because like when you're under the influence of something like that, you have to focus much harder to like coordinate like walking or moving around. And so to some extent it does feel like you have heightened awareness because you're paying more attention.
Yeah.
Hold it in. But it's not an actual performance enhancer. It's just the illusion of one.
Placebo effect, yes. And it probably works better if you're mildly under the influence rather than if you're 4 sheets to the wind.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think drinking straight out of the whiskey bottle on the regular to where you're slurring your words and you're stumbling around all the time, that's definitely a harder convince. That's more than buzz driving at that point.
Right. And he doesn't even notice the trunk flying up and all that stuff. He had no clue. He gets all the way. I believe he got all the way to DC before he checked and found out they were gone.
Yep. And they cause the car pile up, and while all the cars are in traffic, they catch up with the tour bus that Dallas had originally put them on. And
the tour bus comes up at the end, misses the accident, but as we said before, the Andersons got caught in it.
Yep, and they get subject to deep cavity searches.
Of course.
Yep. So Beavis and Butthead make their way to DC, and the FBI agents deduct that they'll be on their way there too, to give it to with Fleming suspecting that they'll give the unit to some damn foreigner. So they make way to DC, and they go to the Capitol, to Capitol Hill, where they screw around. They get on the intercom and call for the chick with the big hooters, saying they're ready to do her, and all the representatives start laughing like Beavis and Butthead, which I don't know, seems like still a very timeless moment in the whole movie.
Right.
and then they go to the white and but on their way back on the bus, because they Bevis gives this very passionate speech about how they're never going to score. Him and Butthead are never going to score. And
I gotta say that's more than I thought he had in him.
Yeah,
to tell you the truth.
But then he gets his ass kicked by the bus driver voiced by Richard Linklater, who since he wouldn't sit down in his seat. But then they wind up. But then they go to the White House and wander. They go to the White House. Bevis drinks a lot of coffee and sugar, consumes a lot of coffee and sugar, and he transforms it into Cornholio. He goes to the Oval Office and picks up the red phone calls the military. Meanwhile, Butthead wanders around and finds Chelsea Clinton in her bedroom and tries to hit on her. But ends up throwing
him out the window.
Yep. And he's detained by the ATF and given a deep cavity search. But while Bevis is still in his Cornholio state, goes and finds actually before this, Muddy and Dallas are about to kill each other, but end up having sex in Muddy's car, but are caught by Fleming and Bork. And subject to cavity searches. But then, of course, they end up going back to throwing each other under the bus. Well, actually, Dallas throws Muddy under the bus.
Right.
But they're both arrested. They're both arrested. Meanwhile, Bevis goes into finds Tom Anderson's trailer, and where he's got a photo of Dallas. And starts whacking in the trailer. But during this whole thing, Tom Anderson, because his tour of the White House was cut short, he vows to go to his congressman and make a complaint. But he goes.
If I remember correctly, he's commenting about how he has wanted to do this all his life.
Right.
And he just so happy to be there. I think he said something to the effect of, I never want to leave. And immediately, like right then, someone walks up, sir, you have to leave the building.
Yep.
I mean, shoot, I'd imagine. I mean, they drove all the way across the United States.
And they were cavity searched too.
They've gone through all this stuff.
I want you to check this camper out, top to bottom.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they had to go through different campers or repair different campers, Right.
But so they go. But Anderson goes into his trailer and finds Bevis whacking off and throws him out. But then the ATF are there with their guns ready to fire. But they're about to fire on Bevis, but then Anderson throws out Bevis's pants, and Anderson is attacked by an ATF agent, causing Bevis's pants to rip open and send the unit flying into Butthead's hands. And Butthead hands Fleming the unit, and so crisis is averted. Anderson is carted off to jail with Muddy and Dallas by mistake, and they accuse him of framing Beavis and Butthead to do his dirty work, and meanwhile Anderson's wife is sent for another deep cavity search. But Beavis and Butthead are sent to They get sent back to the Oval Office where they're commended by President Clinton, who makes them honorary ATF agents. And Beavis and Butthead are excited that they're going to be in charge of alcohol, tobacco, and fire.
Yeah, exactly.
They're more excited about that than meeting the president of the time.
Right. Well, that is, after all, and I'm amazed that we've gotten this far without mentioning Beavis's single-minded obsession with fire.
Fire. Yes.
Fire.
The one that almost got them in trouble with parents with parents in Capitol Hill back in the 90s.
I knew someone in elementary school who could do a really good impression of just that word.
And I'm sure let me guess they got in trouble for it too, right?
They got in trouble for a lot of things.
Well, I mean, when I was in high school, there were like 10 or 12 different people. There was always at least one person handy that would do that impression, because I mean, that was just the popular thing at the time. I mean, wow. Yeah, I was. Yeah, it is sad that I'm definitely in that target Beavis and Butthead generation, right in the freaking middle of it. And I mean, just it was all over the place. Well, I mean, I guess really Gen X and late Gen X and early millennials would be considered the MTV generation, really, if you think about it. Zennials, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Us Zennials.
And so Beavis and Butthead are sent home to Highland. But are down that they are, but upset that they didn't score or get money to buy a new TV. But they find their old TV at the motel and take it home. But decide to make a little stop at Tom Anderson's tool shed.
Right.
And the end. So I guess let's talk about how we feel about music and the animation.
I mean, music's the one thing I have to say, no matter how I feel about the show itself, the music's always top notch, because that's what it was about.
Oh yeah.
And the movie reflected that. I mean, I had that soundtrack on repeat constantly when I was a teen, which was amazing considering I disliked the show so much as a teen. So it just goes to show you how freaking awesome the soundtrack was. And visually, though I'm not going to lie, most of the visuals in the series kind of hurt my eyes. But some of the animation scenes, like a lot of the music video scenes, the White Zombie song, some of that's just mind-blowing.
Oh yeah. I mean,
You can definitely tell there was a bigger budget than with the show.
Slightly.
Yeah, like when they were in the casino and like they're on the disco floor, like they were doing stuff that they would not do on the show, like they couldn't do on television with a television budget.
Right.
There
were still things that felt really rough and unpolished. I mean, partly it's because McVicker is so high strung; he's like constantly shaking.
Oh!
Did him just? It really feels rough and like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, same with Van Driesen.
Yeah.
Any other?
Yeah, I will second that the music was quite solid.
I agree. I will third that too. Music was amazing.
I concur with that too. And the production for this film, I know how the animation was on the show. It was okay. I mean, but you could definitely tell there was a budget behind this animation, and I think it flourished with it. So.
Yeah, again, another example of Mike Judge taking advantage of the of a new medium.
Just think, though, the producers originally wanted this to be live action. The
Oh God,
I think
God, that would have been.
I read they originally wanted it to be Adam Sandler and David Spade, and then somewhere along the way it became Chris Farley and David Spade. Now I could see
Literally
David
impossible.
Spade as Beavis, but still, it's
No, that it would have just been. I mean, they might as well just made you know. I mean, they already kind
Right.
of already got Black. I mean, we're at that point we already had Tommy Boy and Black Sheep.
right. Well, that's probably why they switched over to Chris Farley at that point. Because
Yeah. Plus, on top of that, like all three of those guys would have been too old to play high schoolers.
yes, definitely. They probably would have had to age them up, maybe make them. Well, you can't. I don't see them in college, but like college age. Now that is an idea that could happen to do like a over like a 40-something Beavis and Butthead and see where they are now.
They actually do that in the new cartoon.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I think it probably is better for all concerned. Apparently, Mike Judge was very adamant that as much as he was burned out about the show, but apparently he was also adamant that doing live action would be kind of sacrilege to the spirit of the show.
Yeah.
I am glad that he moved on for the most part from that instead of continuing on. Oh my gosh. But you know, he could have kept going on with Beavis and Butthead even longer than 8 seasons if he had truly wanted to.
I would say if Beavis and Butthead were on Fox, it'd probably already be on like season 30 by now.
Right.
Heaven help us all.
Oh, you mean like The Simpsons that will never end?
I would say The Simpsons, Family Guy, Bob's Burgers, even King of the Hill ran for a very long time.
Right. Did eventually end though.
And it's going to be back again.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. There's a part of me that's like, no, just let something end and do something else. Thank you.
Right.
But I know I am in the minority of that. The idea of revamping everything and making it. It's like, well, let's just do a new series of it and keep it going forever. Is the thing that most people want to beat the cat until it's totally dead. But I just no. Let it end while it's in a good state.
They need to be more like Futurama and do it in short bursts, you know? Like
Yeah,
maybe every couple.
I was gonna say even Judge has done that with Beavis and Butthead. Like the original ran for 4 years, and then they brought it back, and then he brought it back in 2011, and then he brought it back, just last year in 2022.
So yeah, like short bursts. Give it a resting period between. Like The Simpsons desperately needs a rest.
Yeah,
they could maybe bring it back in 10 years, but they desperately need a rest.
I would say with The Simpsons, maybe just I feel like end it as a series, but maybe do the occasional special or one-off.
Yeah. Like the movie was great. Do one of those every 6 or 7 years,
All right, so we've done music and production. Favorites? Yeah, I think we're at favorites. Yeah, because we don't do too many animated movies, so it's like I feel like we're skipping stuff here because of it's a slightly different media. But I guess favorites. Dave, what was your favorite character, favorite scene?
I would have to say Beavis and Butthead are my favorite characters. If I had to choose out of both of them, I would have to say Beavis because of his cornholio nonsense. But that being said, favorite scene? Oh God, I think that my favorite scene from the movie was after he'd gotten the cavity search. He was like, "Wait, dude, did I just score?" There were various moments throughout the thing when you saw Butthead get flung into Anderson's car. That was funny. Things of that nature. when they were looking at Dallas while she was unzipping her whatever their whole expression on their faces like is priceless. So I get a kick out of various stupidity from them.
All right, Brandon, what about you? Favorites, characters, scenes.
I gotta give it to that old couple that they kind of that they base Hank Hill on later on in the thing.
The Andersons.
Yeah, the Andersons. I gotta give it to that because they definitely take it on the chin and they keep on going in an amazing fashion. So I can't really deny them in that way. My favorites are, though both of the music videos are spectacular, that first one in Vegas, because it has Love Roller Coaster, Roller Coaster is going in the background, that one has to be the top on that. Though I'll say as far as in memory of my father, I'd say also as a bonus, the scene in the confessional.
All right. What about you, Kroll? Favorites, characters, scenes. I guess we'll come back to him, Kroll. Jake, what about you? Favorites?
Well, obviously, my favorite character will be Agent Fleming.
I'm here.
And every time it just cracked me up. And that's that one particular image I have. I quoted it, and I can't remember the quote exactly, but it was about cavity searches. But it was definitely just I loved also her as his like right hand. She said nothing. She just put on the glove. And I found that very amusing. There were other moments too, but that has to be the as characters, I should say. They had to be my favorite characters. Although the other guy talking in Hank Hill's voice just amused me too, and it kind of. As far as moments, that one scene that again that I have the image there is one of them, but I feel like there might have been a few others kind of scattered throughout. I feel like there should be another one that I'm just forgetting at the moment. There were a few good moments kind of scattered throughout. Overall, I think probably Bevis reprising the Cornholio role in the White House. I really liked the part where he got on the red phone and they were trying to decipher what he was saying. I thought that was pretty hilarious.
All right. Thank you very much, Jake. Kroll, what about you? Favorites, characters, scenes?
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, great. Definitely be this the great Cornholio, the first scene where he's in the cockpit and they like almost crash the plane and like get out of there, get out of the cockpit. It's just hilarious and like you just mentioned the White House scene and then trying to figure out what he's saying. It's just absolutely hilarious. Like I said, what my friend did with the Cornholio, it's just a special thing and it just makes you really remember that moment and so it's for me it's just kind of the best parts of the movie. And absolutely hilarious for me. So that's what I'm gonna go with.
All right, very good. And Dustin, favorites, characters, scenes.
Well, like I said before, my favorite scene is just tripping in the desert because it's like so like there's a lot going on. Like it's so active, like visually, and that's that kind of thing always like excites me. And I love the song too.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah, it was,
they're such interesting characters too, because they just don't know what's going on. And I think my favorite like character moment for them is at the end. It's like, you boys did a good job, and they're like, where are we? Who are you?
All right. So for me, I would say favorites. I mean, characters. Definitely Beavis and definitely Beavis and Butthead. I guess maybe I maybe lean somewhat more towards Butthead. But also I like Tom. Tom Anderson was great. He's just like he puts up with so. I mean, this guy fought in two foreign wars. He's passionate about propane. Before his much younger counterpart became Hank Hill became a thing, and he also he puts up with so much between Beavis and Butthead and the Feds. The guy doesn't get enough credit for how resilient he is. And then also favorite moments. Oh God, there were so many moments in this that I love. Definitely when the Red Hot Chili definitely the montage in Vegas with the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I love the music for that. The animation. Also, actually, no, the music for that. And then also when Beavis is in the desert hallucinating and like with the music and the animation from Rob Zombie. As well, and also Beavis's little his very passionate speech about how they're never going to score. I mean that part brought me to tears. But yeah, I think that's There's just so many. There's just so many moments I could pick from this that I really loved. It's just so I just love the whole thing. All right. Yeah, I think that's it. So I guess we'll go to outros.
There is one more thing I wanted to say.
Yes.
The one thing that makes this movie so fun to watch is that even like the small scenes kind of have more going on. Like when they meet the guy who thinks they're hitmen, like they just completely blunder their way through that conversation. They're like, who are you? What's going on? And he just keeps making assumptions. It's like, what are your names? Butthead. It's like, okay, you don't have to tell me your real names. I don't want to know them. That's
He's like,
idea.
He's like, you're late. Really? Did we miss Baywatch?
Right.
And just how they make their way through conversations with people just making assumptions about what they mean.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's not every day you meet someone that's stupid. So trying to converse with them is almost like conversing with someone in a foreign language. But yeah.
Alrighty. So you said outros, so I'll bring us into that. Dustin, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, I collect horror movie stuff here in Milwaukee. Been a while since I could really indulge in that. I have a channel for my horror collection, the Cryptic Horrors, which is being shifted to Dirk Texas. It's kind of sad. Like, I filmed a bunch of videos this year, and the plan was to release a couple each week. But I have been so beyond busy, I haven't been able to sit down and do it. So I have all this stuff I shot in January that's just unreleased, and it's really. So, and I've been letting some of my other social media slide, but I'm going to try to start updating my collection videos. And since I can't really collect anymore, I'm trying to do more reviews or discussions or just showing off. Here's everything I have for The Wicker Man. So we're working on that. We're also doing one movie a day on Letterboxd, and you can see me. I usually try to make an Instagram post about what I'm seeing on the Instagram for the horror collection, which is the Forrest as well. And I hang out on Twitter as Dirk-Taxis. I've kind of let it all slip the last week or two, but I'm getting back to it.
Okay, heading over to you, Forrest. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
All right. My name's Forrest Bennett. I'm an independent film producer and actor based in Long Island, New York. I just had a movie come out, Camp Blood 666 Part 2, Exorcism of the Clown. And then I have another one coming out, a few more coming out, Amityville Turkey Day, which is coming out this fall, should be coming out this fall. I just recently filmed that for Cult Cinema. And then Bring On the Damned, which is an anthology from Troma. You can also find me on. I'm also on a show called Under the Radar here in New York. It's a public access film and review show. Public access film and TV review and discussion show. We tend to focus more on newer movies and shows. But you can, and it's also on YouTube. And then and you can also find me on Instagram. I also on a podcast up here on a podcast called Nostalgia Time with Kid Champagne, where we talk about 80s and 90s pop culture. We have an episode coming out soon about Dick Tracy. And then you can also find me on Instagram under My Name Is Not Gump, where I do comic book pickups. I've always got something going on in the pipeline.
Alrighty, heading over to you, Jake. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
All right, I'm Kotobukijake. I am generally co-host of the YouTube channel SeptumSin versus the World. On a little bit of a break right now from that, although we're doing some research and for upcoming projects, I guess you could say. I'll let Brandon speak more on that. I, meanwhile, am very busy myself with the work. Never a dull moment, but but it is the busy season. I am in addition to my full-time job, I am the co-founder and one of the owners of a native plant nursery that we're hard at work on production right now. We got a lot of stuff coming up, and one of the things is I'm actually going to be giving a talk this Thursday on horticulture as conservation, so that's going to be a lot of fun and a lot of for the Virginia Native Plant Society. And I like to keep other projects as well. Like viewing to come on this channel to shoot the shit with these fine folks. Watching movies like this that are slightly outside the wheelhouse, but still fun for a visit every now and then, and as well as movies that kind of go in either direction from there. And we also do have. I should also mention on our channel, we did a discussion last week on Popo the Cinephile, which was a good discussion as well. So check that out. And I'll do.
Okay. Heading over to you, Septum, Brandon. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
We do have a channel that is about like physical media, but we are unfortunately off the air for the time being. Though we are prepping for a couple of projects. It's going to be some months out, but we're hoping to get, when we come back on the air, I want us to really nail that. So my hope is that sometimes after the Versus Awards, if that airs, we will then come on with some pretty interesting stuff that we've actually started working on that, in truth, we would never be able to do if we were still running, because we need all the time we can get to do the research for it, as Jake already knows, as we're starting. And we're also starting our filming for a project called Amityville Webcam, which is going to be fun. I think it's going to be entertaining for all. Of course, I'm also with Schlockaholics, which is a fun channel where we discuss various TV schlock. Of course, if you haven't watched our last episode where we talk about Joel Wynkoop's Lost Faith with Joel Wynkoop on the air with us, that's a very fun episode. And then we're going to be covering a new guy in the ring, where we get to do the Face Melt Features double feature this Saturday. We'll be covering the short films Night of the Axe and Spirit Board Doorway to Death. So that's going to be a fun situation. And of course, next week we're going to be covering some more animation here as we discuss Batman The Dark Knight Returns Part 1 and 2. So everybody needs to get their time check for that. That's going to be quite a ride, I'm sure.
Ready. Thank you. And my name is David Strege. I'm one of the founding fathers of Inside Movies Galore. So thank you for coming along with us on this fantabulous journey that we've been having as we watch the exploits of Bevis and Butthead as they go across America. Hopefully you enjoyed our discussion on this film. But I also moonlight under a different channel called Delusions of Grandeur, where I also do video pickups and video reviews from time to time. And we also podcast under the same channel. So check us out on Sundays. But this week we're going to take a hiatus for Easter, and then we'll be coming back full throttle with another film, which I guess I will let y'all know when that comes about, because good friend Boris has to pick it. But that being said, like, share, and subscribe. Let us know down in the comments what you thought of our discussion. And we'll see you next time here on Inside Movies Galore. Say goodnight, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Night.